Hey everybody, welcome to Local Business Hacks Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Case, and I'm on a mission to help you. Every week, we're going to be talking to local business owners and experts to get their best tips, tricks, and hacks to grow your business. This show is designed to teach you, inspire you, and motivate you to take massive action and start to build your future-proof business. Whether you're just starting off or you're taking your existing business to the next level, this episode is for you. So let's get started. Hey, local business hackers. I'm your host, Director of Global Business Development at Referrizer, joined today by the owner of Basecamp Fitness West Loop, Conik Runyon. Conik, welcome to Local Business Hacks.
Thanks for having me, Carl. Very excited. Let's get into it.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about your career leading up to this point, either in fitness or what got you to this point in your career.
Yeah, so very simply, I've always been in fitness my whole life. Family's been franchising forever with any times. And Basecamp came along. I'm from Minnesota. And so the first Basecamp opened in Minnesota in North Loop. It's a little smaller studio than mine, but that's where I worked after high school in the summers, right? And in college when I came home as well, right? So I knew the team really well. Brand was still tiny, so a lot of corporate, a lot of the leadership was in that studio, helping it ramp up, helping it grow. And so I became really close with them. Eventually, like I said, college was coming to an end. And so I was like, man, it's a great brand. That's kind of what I knew. And I was like, what do you want to do? I was having a conversation with the family. And I was like, I'm not a big desk guy. I got a lot of ADHD. I could just walk around forever. That's my thing. I like people. And so I was like, hey, and I love working out. Like working out for a living is pretty cool. And so I thought, what better way to do it than try to go for a brand which I'm very familiar with. So I actually contacted the corporate team. I worked really well with them. And I said, hey, I'd love to franchise out one of your studios here in Chicago, because they mentioned it wasn't going to come for like 3 to 4 years at least. And I was like, well, let's get this going. It's a great brand. And signed my franchisee agreement my senior year at college in March. I spent my last month and a half or so of college in Santa Monica, working with them at that studio to train, develop, and get myself as prepared as I can be for the pre-sale process. And then pre-sale came along in that August time of 21. And then, like I said, we ramped up. We opened up in technically end of December of 21 with the most pre-sale members at 350. And then, yep. It's all due to we had a great team. And from there, like I said, we've just been going ever since.
Congratulations. And for those people that want to take advantage of either meeting you in Chicago or of the brand, basecampfitness.com, or what's the best way?
Yeah, so there's basecampfitness.com, and then obviously all the options are going to come up. So you just choose the West Loop Chicago area, that one. You can also use our number, which is 773-435-9121. You can use our Instagram, Basecamp Fitness West Loop, or it's going to be Basecamp West Loop up there. You'll see me a lot on the Instagram. And so that's a great way to contact us, DM us, text us, do whatever you want, reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, Conik. So let's dive in a little bit on being a franchisee and having that record on most pre-sales. What would you say really attributed to that effort?
I'd say so. Actually, it wasn't looking that way. I think it all comes down to team, right? A good team. That's all it will come down to. Your success or your failures will be a good team in this franchising business. When I first started, I had one fitness manager. Actually, when you franchise, corporate can't tell you to hire or fire somebody, right? It's actually, I think, illegal for them to do that. And so she wasn't the best, I guess. But I didn't know. You learn from your mistakes. And so I got her out to I blew out to Santa Monica. She taught, and I thought she did well because they can't tell me she didn't, okay? And so eventually our first 100 pre-sales come, right? Out of those first 100, I sold 91 of them, okay? And so she 9 was only sold. And I was like, hey, I'm going to need you to step it up a little bit here. Let's do this. Let's work together here. Let's work in the top floor of my apartment building. We can work together. I have offices up there. We can talk. We can collaborate. We can share ideas instead of you working from home and I working from home. She was like, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. I work better from home. And then I was like, well, we're in fitness. You're going to have to work in the studio anyway. It just started, that idea of being accountable with her kind of clashed. And so I got rid of her. And so it was just me for a while. And I'd get texts from corporate and my mentor through the process saying, dude, I'm sweating. In the morning, texting me, I can barely sleep. How are you doing? You got to ramp, you got to ramp, you got to ramp. So now I'm sweating, okay? But then I found one person DM'd me, and her name was Syra. She's still with me. It was actually her 2-year anniversary of working for me because it was November 1st. So I have her gift basket I got to give her today. And so She started November 1st. She DM'd me on Instagram. I hired her. And then the building I was living in had, I call her the Russian assassin, but Alona, she was working front desk there. And so every time after I made pre-sales, I'd be in my apartment all day. I'd go into the lobby and I just chill there and like get some minor work done, but just socialize with people. And she lived in the building where my gym was. And so I just kind of talked to her. And after a while, I was like, hey, like, would you want to work for me? She was in fitness. And eventually actually just quit the job at where we used to live. And then she started working for me. And she knew a bunch of people. She's a hustler. So is Sai. Sai's a great hustler. And so we literally just hit the phones, us three, for the next, I don't know, 2 months. And we just hit it every day. And yeah, kind of just ran. Like I said, it's a good team. They worked well together. The best way to teach them is I literally just said, make a call. They had no clue what they're doing, but I was like, hey, I didn't either. Like, I want to watch you mess up, and then we'll learn from there. And then we just kind of kept improving and going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And shout out to the team and happy 2-year anniversary, Sarah.
Yeah.
Conik, I'd love to know, before we dive into the hacks, what are your like ultimate tricks when it comes to closing on the phone pre-sales?
The biggest thing on pre-sales is to just learn, like when it first started, there's no real trick to closing. It's kind of just seeing if it can work for them, because we're a new brand. And so no one knows what Basecamp is. We're not like an OTF or an F45 to where people are like, oh, I know somebody that does that. Like, yeah, I'll sign up, right? We're a new brand. No one has any clue what our workout is. And so it's a new concept. And so a lot of it is explaining the workout, explain how it's different from them, asking them if they have any issues with running, right? And a lot of it can just come down to is building a little bit of trust and a little bit of rapport and kind of interest in the workout. And what we offered them was a 2-week trial that was free, and then it rolled into a membership if they enjoyed it. And so they got 2 weeks to try us out. And if they liked it, it rolled in. If they didn't, they could cancel, because they needed to see what we were. Yeah. And so there was really no key. It was just constantly hitting the phones and just explaining to them the workout, how we're different, how they could benefit from it, right? And then offering them that 2-week trial, because at the end of the day, like, their goals are always changing, and we were too early in the process to go down the goal route. It was more kind of explaining it, getting the hype around it.
Awesome. So yeah. Numbers game, and don't pressure people into buying things.
It's a volume game. Like, if they don't know who you are, if you pressure them into buying it, like, people don't like to buy, they like to be sold. If you just sell them on this new workout, the new vision of like, we're more low impact style, we have heavier weights, this idea of it's going to allow you to kind of push yourself in a different way than you normally have in group, it kind of gets them excited a little bit. You offer them a 2-week trial, they're like, why not, right? Why not? And so it's good. And we lost a lot of people when we first opened after that first 2-week trial, almost because Omicron just hit. And so we actually went from 350, Omicron hit right in January of 22. And so we went down to like 180, right? And so we lost like half the people we got anyway. And so we had to work it back up now to we're at 500 now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Conik, let's get right in. Local business hacks. Talk to us about your stories that really shaped where you are today, so that other people don't have to learn that lesson, hopefully.
Yeah. Number one is, I think, developing a really strong culture in your studio and your staff. So my biggest thing with my team is I encourage mistakes, right? I never like scold them for doing something wrong, right? I always say, hey, I want you to try this. Only ask me if it involves spending money. Right now, we try every single month, we try a new incentive with goals. And so when we first started in December of 22, we did a whole revenue-based goal to grow. And so I track each person's sales, and the girls would all work together to hit a revenue goal. And from there, they just learned how they can sell, their way of selling, and how they can work together. And so they get a bonus every single month they hit that revenue goal. And so in that 3-month period from January to March, which is the best time to sell memberships, that's why I incentivized it. We did like 118 net memberships in like 90 days. And so that was a great one there. Just like letting your team make mistakes. I trust my team completely. They're great. There's no team I'd rather have, because they communicate very well together. They've been my same team since I opened, which is very rare in group fitness. I think that the pay is not always the best, right? You got to deal with people all the time, which can be a pain. But like I said, they stuck around and they love each other and they work really hard together, right? And so having a really strong core team is going to be make or break. I've seen a lot of studios fail because they don't have a good team that aren't incentivized, and there's no culture around that, right? It's just a toxic work culture. You do not want that. You want them to feel welcomed, encourage their mistakes, and let them work well together. Trust them, right? Trust them to grow into a leader, because if you don't give them that freedom, they never will. That's the number one. Two is studio culture. I think with your members, I'm a big believer in culture. Like people, I don't know if it's good, but it's also bad. Like everything's good and bad, right? There's a bad side to everything. People call us the Basecamp cult. In the neighborhood, people are like even sometimes scared to come try a workout because we're considered like the cult, because we have such a strong community with our members. Okay. So every month or every other month, I do a mixer. And so if you go on our Instagram, you can see we just did our Halloween party, which we had 150, 200 people at this Cashmere down the street. We packed it up. Everyone was in costumes. We did best costume party. It was great. The month before that, we did an all black theme mixer at a bar at a restaurant in River North called Umo. A month before that, we did an all white mixer. Same thing. Like we pack 150, 200 people in there, and our members just love that. We also do like during classes when we were first ramping, I would do some coaching. I would say, hey, look to your neighbor next to you, introduce yourself, know their first name. If I come around and you don't know your neighbor's first name, you owe me a sprint, right? And so that's a great way for people to meet each other. And a prime example of that is I went to a restaurant in West Loop here, Gino and Marty's, and I walk in and I see two members at the bar. They're sitting there. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? What's up? And they're like, hey, can I? And they're just chatting. They go, by the way, do you know we're friends now because of Basecamp? Like we met there. It was a name thing, right? And that's how we met. And now we're great friends. I was like, that's awesome, right? But there's so many examples of that. And that's what retains your members. And that's what makes them bring in your people in. Like I don't pay any dollars in marketing. Our main source of leads is Google search and referrals. Like people love referring people because working out with friends is way better. And they want to bring us here because they like us a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think culture is definitely king. I'm blessed to have a founder whose title is Chief Energizing Officer and not Executive Officer.
Yeah.
To the point, giving people freedom. A couple of years ago, we announced that anybody in customer success could give away $50 at any time for anything, and it's up to them to decide without clearance. And just giving that freedom and that trust to your staff is really something. And congrats on keeping the same staff over the last 2 years. That's unheard of in the fitness space. So definitely go check out Conik Studio, people.
I mean, like you said best, like having a good leader above you or a good manager above you is great because you don't feel that pressure every day. They trust you to perform, right? And if you don't perform, like you talk about it, but you don't feel like you're being scolded for it. It's like, hey, what can we do to improve your performance? Hey, like what's going on in life? Sometimes if I know my team, something's wrong, I just ask them like, hey, talk to me. Like, what's going on? Like there may be some problems at home, right? Maybe it's a relationship issue. It can be distracting. That's how we are. We're humans. And so you can't just be like, oh, you got to perform better. Do it now. It's like, hey, what's going on in life? Like, how can I help you out? How can I be here for you? Like my job as a boss is to work for your employees, right? Like that's what your CEO, that's what your chief energizing officer does, right? He like works for you technically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. I think something that I've learned as a hack recently, instead of pinning somebody like what's going on, when you can tell, just say, give me your highs and lows of the day.
Yeah.
And you're shocked at what comes out of their mouth. And then you can support from there.
Yep, I agree.
That's beautiful. Conik, before we wrap up, I want to ask a couple personal questions. Are you a reader or more of a podcaster?
Oh, gosh. I would say I am more of a podcaster, but I do like to read, but I enjoy the podcast more.
Okay. Give me a couple books or podcasts that you recommend that people on this show should check out.
Oh, goodness. Okay. A couple podcasts that I recommend. It really depends on who the guest is. That's my thing. I don't care about the podcast. I care about the guest. And so a lot of my favorite guests are like the Musk Man, Alex Hermosi. I like. There's the Daily Life of CEO. I think he has a good podcast. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yep. There's Chris Williamson. He has a good podcast. Those are my main ones. And then it really depends on the guest too. Like I'll click on like the short videos. Like if it's like a 7-minute video, I'll like click it and like listen to it and I'll go to the next one. And so I'm not very loyal to my podcasters, but I go for the information. Books, favorite book, I make my team and I read it every year is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Number one, my favorite book. I think that's really the main book that you really need. Influence is a really good book as well. There's also like some other sales books, which I don't really like sales books as much because they're all repeating the same things. And I think sales has evolved too much now to way more relationship and psychological. Like I think sales is way more human influence and human psychology than it is actual sales now, which is kind of why I do influence, persuasion, and gosh, Atomic Habits is good. Yeah, I'm more of a podcast guy, I'd say, but there's a couple key books that you should always read, but I just highlight them. Like I go through Alex Hormozy's $100 million leads and offers book, and I'll like highlight it and then apply the exercises. But like I said, I think that the biggest thing about books is that I've realized is that people always look for it's going to change you. Like, yes, it can change you, but you have to take action on that to change.
Yeah.
And so like you'll read something and be like, oh, I got the answer I need. And you'll sit there feeling satisfied. But if you don't take action on it, it does absolutely nothing for you. And so the biggest thing is just taking action. Like if you just take action all day and never read a book, like you'll be very successful. That's I kind of realized.
Integration, I call it. When you finish that book or finish a chapter, how do you integrate that into your life? Because
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot of great things out there.
Yeah. And I am a big victim of this, but there is a great quote I heard, but it's called, I think by Alex Hormozy too. He goes, a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, but none of them want to execute. So like everyone's a wantrepreneur, right? So they want to be an entrepreneur, but they actually don't because they don't execute. And so I think this is a great quote because I have it written on my whiteboard right there. It's just execute like wantrepreneur because everyone wants to be their own business, but no one wants to actually nowadays take action to do it. And I've been a victim of that as well. Like I've been like social media, I've been ADHD, like just lazy doing it. And so every day I try to get myself like, hey, action, action, action. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Conik, let's talk about your morning routine and what it used to be and what it is now that you are an entrepreneur running a fitness studio.
Well, this week has been terrible. I've been sick. So this week, actually, I've been coming. This is my like last day of it. When we first talked on Tuesday, I was in it bad. So I woke up actually probably around 7:50 today because I'm trying to get over this head cold. Typically, it is I wake up around 5:45, 5:30, typically 5:45. Go to the base camp, take the 6:15 class, and then from there, after the 6:15 class, I'll say hi to my 7:15 people because that's where the most packed out. So I know my people there. So I'll chat, see how the schedule is first. So if there's no first timers all day, or no trials as we call them, I'll go home, I'll shower, maybe get a coffee, answer emails because I actually work better from home, I believe, which I was hypocritical with my fitness manager in the beginning of the call. But I have a great team there. They have the chairs. I just have my desk in here and the ADHD so I can zone in. So I answer emails from here, and then I'll go back to the studio, deal with small stuff that has to be dealt there, and then also come back. And then I eventually come back here, cook my breakfast. From there, I'll meet with some team a little bit, talk to them, be like, hey, what are we doing to kind of grow? From there, I'm also doing a side project with a buddy, and so we work on that a little bit. Then I go back to the gym for the afternoon classes. But if there's no trials, then I'll stay home and kind of just get some side work done, whether it's doing some reel editing, Instagram stuff. It always changes day to day. But my morning routine is very simple. Wake up, workout. I have to sweat. Wake up, sweat. Wake up, sweat.
Awesome. And when there are trialists, are you going to the gym to introduce yourself or work out with them, or how does that look?
Yeah. So like I said, I trust my team very well. They know what they're doing. I'd say they can always they can sell people way better than I can, right? Like they do it every day. They rep it out. They should, and they're really good at it. And so if there's one trial, no need, right? I always say, let me know if you want me to come in. But if there's like 2 trials in one class and the next class there's 2 more, like they're going to be back to back, I'll go in and I'll obviously help them through the process. So it's introducing yourself, giving them a great experience, and trying to see if the base camp is right for them. Trial is just their first class, and so they have no clue what base camp is. So the goal is to get them on a membership, right? That's the end goal. But yeah, it very varies. Like today, we have I think just 1 trial in the 6:15 p.m. class, and so I probably won't go in much in the afternoon classes. I'll go in later today. But like I said, I'm asking my team because I'm still coming over the head cold. And so we'll see.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Conik, my last and final question, which is probably my favorite, is if you could have dinner with a historical figure or current figure, who would it be and what are you talking about?
With one?
You can name a couple.
All right. I'll go a couple here. Mr. Elon Musk, because I just want to pick his brain a little bit.
What do you want to pick out of him?
I just want to know how he can juggle what he juggles because he's in like the hardest industries in the world. So he's in space technology, rocket technology, which is advanced weapons tech, which is I can't even, you know what I mean? He's in made an electric car company against all odds. And then he's got like boring company tunnels, right? I want to know how his mind works. I just want to sit down and be like, what's it like dealing with all that? And then also very well connected. He's arguably one of the richest men in the world. And so very cool. For business wise, I'd also go probably sit down with like the Hormozy man. I'm in that big wave of him. He's done the gym business. He's done it all. And I just have some questions or some advice I'd like to get from him. So those would probably be the top 2 I'd pick. just because I think that I could get very good insight from both of them.
That's awesome. I think that you have the key right in front of you. You've done it in your studio. It's about hiring the right people and delegating the roles and relinquishing control to the right people that are definitely way smarter than you and I that do it better. But yeah, it would be awesome to sit down with him. Conik, one more time, how can people follow you, stay connected?
Yep. So my Instagram is Conik Runyon. That's very simple. You'll find me. I don't think there's any other Conik Runyons out there. There's Basecamp West Loop on Instagram, and those are kind of the main two ways you'll find us on Instagram, social media, and then Basecamp Fitness West Loop Chicago. That's where you'll find us right away there. Go to our Instagram, call us, email us, do whatever you want to do. Reach out, send us a mail if you want. But yeah, that's how you can find us. Easy way.
Awesome. Conik, from our listeners all over the globe and my team over at Referrizer, thank you for being you and starting another emerging brand in this forever growing fitness space.
Thank you for having me, Carl. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That's it for this week's episode. I hope you found it helpful. Be sure to head over to our site, local-business-hacks.com, to check out the show notes and send me questions or ideas for future episodes. If you want to grow your business, just like the people you've heard from here, follow Local Business Hacks Podcast and tune in for new tips, tricks, and tactics. Until next time, thanks for listening and keep hacking.